when we think about endpoints, right? We think about an employee. Let's say a company has 500 employees. It's rough math, but we typically say, okay, that's 1,000 endpoints. We have to go monitor, manage, illuminate all the risk and help remediate anything that happens. Because most people have a computer and a phone, right? It's just raw math. Those are their attack vectors and points. And those devices throw off alerts, and we've got to be able to go help them secure it.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Michael Conley, Chief Revenue Officer at BlueVoyant. Michael, how are you today?
Great, Andrew. Thanks for having me. A real pleasure. Excited to have an energetic conversation.
Excellent. I appreciate you spending some time with us on Business
You
Ninjas.
bet.
Please tell us a bit about your background and about BlueVoyant.
Wow. Well, my background is one that goes for some now 25 years in the IT industry. Interestingly enough, I started in IT with a company called Foresight Technology, and I was the 16th employee, run by a guy named Rick Forsyth. And we did operating leases. We ran around. I had an HP 12C. I could barely spell IBM, but I knew the finance side of operating leases. Back then, customers would, and this was probably, mid 90s, instead of them running out and buying a mainframe, they would lease it. They'd do an operating lease. What that meant is I would compete with people like GE Capital and Comdisco and IC and IBM Credit Corporation. And we would go in there and say, hey, Mr. Customer, instead of you dropping $2 million on this mainframe, I'll buy it for you and lease it back to you. And I won't take the full cost. I will actually put equity into the device, into the machine. Usually it was about 13 points of equity. So if the mainframe cost $1 million, they would finance $870,000 over 3 years. And they could take that monthly payment and write it off like the light bill. So operating leases were incredibly popular. Everybody was leasing their infrastructure. Now, the good news for us is we maintained the title of the equipment. We maintained that at the end of that lease, the customer could then renew their lease for the then fair market value. And it was a very good business because certainly the mainframe back in the 90s, after it being only 3 years old, was certainly worth a heck of a lot more than 130 grand or whatever we had put in. Customers knew it. We knew it. We'd get a good fair market value and redo the lease. We made a lot of money doing that, and they loved it because their lease costs came down, and they continued to write it off like the light bill. Well, what happened was eventually distributed systems came into the world. And when distributed systems came into the world, everybody said, hang on, there's a cheaper way to do all this processing. You saw the birth of HP and HP, UX and the M class and the N class and other Linux machines. And out came Scott McNeely with Sun and the UE10s, and everything was, Sun versus HP versus IBM. And then you saw the birth of EMC, right? How do we start doing more storage, enterprise class storage? And it was always them versus IBM and Hitachi. The world went distributed. That for us as a business exploded us. And long story short, our small little company suddenly became a massive reseller and a consulting integrator. Anything we developed or anything we sold, I'd send a body in there for 5 days. We called it quick results, and boom, that person would get there, the machine would arrive, they'd debox it, they'd environmentalize it, plug it in, get it ready for someone to come in and implement the software. So the business took off. Eventually, myself and a handful of folks bought out the owner. We built that business up and we sold it to a private equity firm. And very long story short, we kept building it and building it. We became part of Sirius Computer. We kept building it up some more. And then many years back, or not many years back now, probably 4 years back, CDW came and bought us. So, we went from a very small place to a very, very large place. It was a great one, but the birth of cybersecurity really happened in about 2005, 2006. We started saying we're supplying all this infrastructure. Customers need help managing this infrastructure, and particularly the security aspect of this infrastructure. But it was infrastructure, management of security, so it was firewalls, right, and things like this. A lot of Palo Alto firewalls, a lot of checkpoint firewalls. We'd manage those. And managed services and cyber started to take off. Most cyber was, $25,000 for a bunch of software. That quickly grew into something quite large. The evolution of the cloud makes cyber bigger. The analogy I use for everybody is this. In the old world, everybody's critical information was their gold, and it sat in the middle of a warehouse. And there were 2 doors to get in and out of that warehouse. And you could put SEAL Team 6 at each door. You were secure because everybody went to the office. Everybody didn't have necessarily a PC. Access was restricted. Along comes the modern world of the cloud, and you must be interacting with everybody. Suddenly that warehouse that has your gold in it doesn't have 2 doors. It has 2,000 doors. So you can no longer afford to put SEAL Team 6 at every door. Suddenly the data's got to become intelligent. Suddenly process and cyber and tools have to become intelligent because there's no way you can do business without going through many of those doors. Back in 2017, 2018, BlueVoyant is born. We are incredibly unique because we started in what we call the supply chain defense business. So we started at looking at all those people on the other side of the doors that wanted to come in. And we would say, look, here's our policy of cyber. And our policy says that you have to have a certain standard and a certain tier. Today, we look at every single supplier that comes in to our clients and ensure them that they are maintaining that level of security. And we do that via electronic questionnaire. And we do that with a lot of very sophisticated technology that we are watching them 24/7. So if they fall off the wagon for any reason and don't keep their standard up, we know. We illuminate it, we validate it, and we work with the client to remediate it immediately. So that's a very big part of what BlueVoyant does. We call that the external security. The internal security is massive for us because that's the network. That's everything we do with MDR. We are very big with, obviously, Microsoft. We're big fans of E5 and Sentinel. We also work with Splunk and other, obviously, very leading edge technologies, but those are obviously our biggest. And in Microsoft's world, we are their number one security partner in the world. We just received that recognition last year. We received it for the top security partner in North America, Canada, and then, of course, globally. We got the whole thing. But the run for BlueVoyant is still young. Haven't been around that long, but we have grown in a very, very fast and big way. And it's simple. We bring together external, internal security. We illuminate it, we validate it, we remediate it. That is a very powerful picture for anybody who has cyber. We have just built a platform called the Cyber Defense Platform that gives our customers a single pane of glass to marry the language of IT with the language of finance and finally take in all the view of risk, map it out with what that costs them, and paint that up against governance, say NIST, and say, here's the gaps in your governance. Here's what you have to complete to close these gaps, and be able to put a financial picture around it so they know, is the risk I have worth the money it's going to take to fix it? Each business is different. A big distributor may say, in my business, I don't need to be doing this. I'm good where I am. Another business, God, maybe I'm JP Morgan. I have a huge amount of regulation. Close that gap. What do we need to do? This language of simplicity, making all that external threat and internal threat suddenly becomes very simple. And the CDP, the Cyber Defense Platform, allows them to see that every day, engage with it every day, strategize every day. It is right there for them to consume. And that simplicity, taking the complicated and make it very easy and elegant, has been proven to be incredibly powerful for us.
Excellent. It's interesting. You just described the beginning of the SaaS era, and what preceded it, I hadn't thought about as being hardware as a service, but that's basically what you described going on in the 90s.
Yeah, it really was. Because look, people had to leverage their dollars as much as they could. IT was quickly becoming, it was evolving from that dirty cost, ugly thing in the basement that the CFO would yell at the CIO, I give you this money and I don't know what we get for it. A bunch of IBM mainframes and AS400s with big printers that rolled off into, big sheets of, printed paper into boxes we carry around and everyone read their reports. It evolved from that to the front of the spear. Now IT is what you must leverage to get better profit, right? You can only spend profit. We can't spend revenue. So all these companies chasing top line suddenly realize, if I don't weaponize IT to get better data and information to my client and give them better client experience, I get crushed. That's why so many times when I lecture and I do stuff like this, I always show people, let's go look at the top companies on the Dow in 1990, and then in 2000, and then in the mid, teens, and today. What happened? Wow. IT leads that entire leverage evolution. I have a saying I use all the time that if you don't like change, you're going to hate extinction. That picture absolutely points that out very clearly. Companies didn't want to evolve. They're gone.
And now you're in a scenario where not only do you have more than 2 doors into your vault, but the lowest level employee at a company with a cell phone can open the wrong email and let anything happen. So the level of education that's necessary throughout the food chain has changed dramatically in the last 10 years.
This is exactly correct. And it's very hard, as we know, to depend on a human being not doing something stupid. It always happens. Inevitably, it happens. You can train them all day long. And I always use the same test. Take a fob, put on that fob, executive comp plans, throw it in the middle of the cafeteria and see what happens. Someone's going to grab it and snap it in every single time. And you can tell them, we're testing you. Something's going to be out there. Don't do anything stupid. Heads up. It's going to happen on, Tuesday at 12 o'clock. Be very careful. And somebody will go snap it in, do it in. It's all it takes. So, you have to be very paranoid about this. We hope, obviously, leveraging all things that are happening now with AI and whatnot, that this will help us, right? Remove a lot of the human interaction on those tier 1, tier 2 type engagements of alerting. BlueVoyant builds very aggressively and innovates in that space. We feel that's wickedly important because you cannot solve this problem with human labor arbitrage. A lot of people in the background looking at a lot of alerting and whatnot. It needs to be solved with technology because the attackers are getting much, much smarter. They don't have to attack one company. They can attack many all at once and see which one's most vulnerable and then go in that one. So you got to be on your game.
No, it's everywhere. And it's daily now. I get so many text messages now. And this season, it's political, trying to raise money. I don't know if people are really silly enough to click on those links, but apparently they are, right?
Absolutely. And then I just came back from a big Microsoft event last week. And the big thing was, not the big thing, many big subjects, but one of them was how bad people are getting about these QR codes everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Where you go, the restaurant, no menu, skew the QR code. Oh, you got to get something, got to buy some QR code. Okay. Any hacker can put a QR code on anything and they're in. You just let them in the door. So it's a whole lot of, now there's this pushback, like there's no way I'm scanning a QR code for anything because it is so easy. So easy to create a bad one and stick it anywhere and you got them. You got them.
Think about putting a commercial on during the Super Bowl with a giant QR code in the screen. And that's what they do now, right?
That could do it.
Yeah. Tell me, what verticals are you servicing? What sectors are your main clients here?
Yeah, BlueVoyant does a great job in the enterprise space, and we've been very, very blessed. We do very well in manufacturing, financial, and then when you come into the commercial sector, most of our business is in the networking side around Microsoft. It's very, very big for us, very, very powerful. That's where most of our reputation is getting launched at the different levels. What do I mean by that? That means we can be doing business at the biggest financial companies and the smallest companies. We deploy very quickly, very easily. So, our breadth has been quite substantial. We've been growing our sales force, growing our back office, growing our multiple SOCs, growing our engineering. BlueVoyant now has roughly 800 people in it. And it's just been a fantastic ride. But we are always looking, our leader, Jim Rosenthal, who is our CEO, is very big into ensuring that we are reinvesting all the time, right? Like I said, you cannot survive in this game. I've been doing it for so long. You cannot survive if you do not completely stay paranoid. We are very paranoid. I am constantly thinking about what we're not covering, what we're not doing. How do we do this better? It is critical for survival if you decide to get into the tech business.
Yeah, and the reality is that hackers have AI at their disposal as well, and they're poking around as many times as you guys are defending. And technology is advancing at an exponentially faster rate than it used to, so you have to continually.
I agree. I honestly don't think people realize how fast it's changing. I don't think, other than what they see with Elon Musk putting out, his Optimus robot that he's now launching.
Ominous robot, maybe.
Right. People don't realize how fast this is going to change. And how I describe it to folks is I say, look, when you were, I think the fastest learning phase of a human being's life is from the ages of 0 to 4 or 0 to 5, right? You learn to walk, you learn to talk, you learn to input all this data about the world. You actually build a character, right? And that input comes through your eyes. Typically, it's your senses, your eyes, your touch, your hearing. The amount of input that is coming into the human brain that you're learning is staggering. AI has now taken the leap that it can implement data no longer based on what it's sent, but on what it sees. So a lot of the robotic ingestion is these things are taking in data as they look. And because of the speed of AI and how they can improve the algorithms, and they have the horsepower and they have the data, It's constantly learning and improving and upping its game. The first world of robotics used to be, here's a screw. I have a robot. It reaches out 8 inches, puts the screwdriver in the screw, tightens it, and moves it back. But if you move that screw 10 inches away, it won't work. It'll come short, right? Not anymore. Now it looks, learns, sees, adjusts, does, because it's constantly changing and inputting data at a speed that is just... So when people say it's going to be a hockey stick, they're not kidding. The processing and the algorithm to input data the same way we do is very, very for real. It's very real. And it's exciting. I don't get worried about it. Some people get worried about it. I think it's really exciting. You can never take an AI output and ask it how it feels. You can never, replace the human emotion and, get that feeling or that business gut or that. You can't replace that inside an algorithm with data. But you can certainly, bring a world to people that is, in my opinion, far more enjoyable and a whole lot less stressful when you have certain things being done and they're done perfectly, right, every time, right? So,
gotcha.
Exciting times.
And hey, other than the obvious stuff of basic cybersecurity, what are the most common problems you're solving for your clients?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of our clients are starting to get so heavy into the alerting, and they really struggle. Alerting by, I mean, they're getting alerts off their security tools, and they have many different endpoint products. That used to be okay when I told you about, hey, not that many doors, or we grew the doors. But the world is shifting now to what we call the ecosystem. And the reason that's happening is because it is very hard for our client to have multiple endpoint tools that give out multiple outputs with multiple teams working at each output tool. And then they have to marry all these together to answer the question the board asks, are we secure? And they go, well, I think so. They can't tell, right? They have tools for endpoints. They have tools for firewalls. They have tools for encryption. They have tools for email, whatever it may be. Tools, hoping that any of the alerting it throws off speaks properly into a SIM, that they can measure it and they can remediate it, but they can't be sure. How do we know this? Because here comes someone like an Accenture with a red team, and they're going to go through your security and audit you. I assure you've never done that once in the history of anywhere where they don't come up with a whole lot of findings. Because if they came up with nothing, they would they would look like a waste of money, or they just weren't successful. Their job is to find stuff. And they take that stuff and they give it to a board. And then my clients go, God, the board just ripped us to shreds. Accenture did a pen test and then a red team test. We were a disaster. We thought we had it all covered. So your question about what I'm facing my customers, the threats get bigger. The amount of data and the business proposition that they have to give to bring value requires more data, meaning they have to use more doors, right? They've got to be faster and faster with relevant data to you and me so that we have a fantastic client experience. So what does this mean? This means in the world of the ecosystem, everybody is starting to play chess so that there isn't multiple endpoint tools. In fact, they come under one umbrella. You decide which umbrella. Microsoft leads the world. We know that with the E5 stack. They have the most end-to-end offerings. Palo, rapidly coming up on their heels. They just bought, as you know, QRadar from IBM. And they, of course, have some fantastic technology. Their stock is at an all-time high, right? They're trying to push their customers into their ecosystem. Dell SecureWorks gets bought by Sophos. And why are they doing that? Well, trying to create more and more of an ecosystem, right? Trying to bring these things together and sell to a customer, hey, we have this end-to-end, right? This is going to keep happening, in our opinion. And obviously, there's many, many other examples, because a client has got to say, look, I'm spending my money with you. You may not be the best. Every one of your endpoint solutions may not be the best, but I have accountability and I have measurement, and I have it in one place finally. And that is a very big deal when you're trying to measure risk. If I have one partner that covers internal, external, and deep dark web, that's the partner I want. They can be held accountable. I can get measurement, and I can report to the boss. I have it covered end to end. I'm using BlueVoyant and Microsoft, or I'm using, Palo and its whole. To me, that is their biggest challenge. And that's why you see all these companies jockeying for position and building out their ecosystems, because they have to. They have to.
Hey, a lot of these companies are growing through mergers and acquisitions. Now you've got a million different systems and siloed data all over the planet. They're not all on the same mainframes. So you have to come in and protect 20 years worth of hardware. That's not the easiest thing to get done,
Right. It's not easy. And, when we think about endpoints, right, we think about an employee. Let's say a company has 500 employees. It's rough math, but we typically say, okay, that's 1,000 endpoints. We have to go monitor, manage, illuminate all the risk and help remediate anything that happens. Because most people have a computer and a phone, right? It's just raw math. Those are their attack vectors and points. And those devices throw off alerts, and we've got to be able to go help them secure it. That world's only moving faster and faster and faster. And as we talked about earlier, the AI engine is being used by attackers to look for all the holes in the dam, find the weakest one, and fully attack that one. And they can do it so fast. It's unbelievable. So how do you sit there and go, well, do I have enough of one endpoint product? Maybe I need a little bit more of that endpoint product. Oh, maybe a little bit more, a couple more licenses over here. You can't manage it that way anymore. It needs to be an ecosystem. And again, I believe all these tech companies and these cyber startups, they're doing cool, innovative things. A lot of them will become features, right? They're hoping to get bought up by the big boys. I always say it's Apple, Amazon, Google, Microsoft. I always say the four horsemen of the IT apocalypse, right? And of course, I'm not excluding people like Salesforce and whatnot. There's others. But what I'm saying is when you have that kind of money, power, cachet, you'll buy what you need to stay relevant. And I believe more and more of them are going to push on this ecosystem because they have to. Google is coming on strong. We see that, right? Google's made some very aggressive acquisitions. You just saw Cisco bought Splunk, right? Talk about big acquisitions, right? Why? They need their ecosystem. They have to get in it.
Well, I'm not sure how old you are. I'm in my mid-50s, and I grew up, and there was lots of talk in the 70s about antitrust laws and all kinds of stuff. It's getting a little murky in terms of the competitive nature of how gigantic companies are allowed to swallow up everything below them.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, right? We certainly in this country don't want to kill innovation in any way, shape, or form, and we never want to slow down innovation. And you're right. It's like, wow. I mean, everybody talks about artificial intelligence and what it's going to do, and I always tell people, do you have any idea how expensive it is to go build that stuff? And I don't think people do. I think they throw it around like it's a piece of paper. It should be thrown around like a manhole cover. It is incredibly expensive to get into the game and do it right. It is incredibly expensive.
Well, you just used the right phrase, to do it right, right? Almost everybody has access to cheap AI tools now. They don't all do it right. So
yeah, and but a lot of it's ChatGPT, right? A lot of these tools and these software products are leveraging AI in how they deliver their customer experience. But these aren't this is stuff that's cost them, and they are investing and they're doing everything they can to make that client experience better, which is the right move. But it's not cheap. I mean, it requires a staggering amount of horsepower. I mean, you've got all those big guys. I just saw something that said that Amazon is going to be investing, I think it was Amazon, in these micro nuclear power plants because they need such staggering power for the data centers. I mean, it's crazy stuff. They're going to start investing in this. And it's the right thing to do, quite frankly, because you need a hell of a lot of power to make AI a reality, a staggering amount of power. It's not just the data.
What's the big differentiator for BlueVoyant? What makes you stand out among your competitors?
I think we're the only player in the world that provides, and I know it, we're the only ones that provide interior, I call, and exterior security profile for our clients. So we give a clean view of risk. Exterior, meaning supply chain defense. We look at everybody that's outside of you that you have to deal with. Inside is the network, right? MDR, XDR, everything that we're doing to ensuring you are completely covered. That end-to-end measurement, along with another product we have called Digital Risk Protection, DRP, which is looking in the deep dark web, you put those three together and deliver them to a client in a single platform. We call it the Cyber Defense Platform. And you have suddenly taken all risk and allowed yourself to marry that with finance. When you can marry that together and give a CFO, a CIO, a CISO, a picture of their profile against their governance, how they rank up and where they're supposed to be every day, that is a game changer. Because right now they have to do it through a series of tools and a series of reports, and they're not quite sure, and no one can give the right answer. Well, here it is. And it allows these clients to go to their boards and say, you want to know how we're doing? This is how we're doing. Inside out, what we spend, what we get, what our risk is, what we need to work on. But you know what? We can now look at those as executives to say, should we be spending the money to close that gap based on our business? No, that gap is acceptable. This is something tangible, finally. And that makes great simplicity across a very complicated world. That is what makes us quite unique. No one does it better.
Well, I know you're good at telling your story. How about BlueVoyant? What role has content played in the growth of BlueVoyant?
Well, I mean, look, I always say, people always ask me, like, where are you guys going? What's next? Right? You're always talking about innovating. There's a lot of things that we have on the docket that I can talk about and some stuff I can't talk about, obviously. But it is wickedly exciting. And what I would tell you is this: content is incredibly important. When I think of what would be cool and I think what could be out there, I think of us always being able to develop and becoming like the Netflix of content, right? Because our customers can go and do it many different ways, but the content, that must be fresh all the time and it must be relevant. And nobody has bigger worldwide telemetry of all this stuff coming in than we do now. I mean, we see risk all over the world. And the things that we're doing with our platform relative to anybody in any country in any part of the world being able to use it and not have to worry about data residency, these are things that are coming very, very soon for us. That is a game changer. Who does that, right? Anybody can use the platform and know that it meets data residency requirements in that country. That's pretty cool. And I'm not building socks all over the place and doing all this crap. No, you can do it in the tech. So there's lots of stuff when we talk about content and we talk about where we're going and what we're doing that is really game changing. Again, we never stop innovating. I would tell you it's going to be a really exciting 2025 for us because we have a lot of things being announced. And all of this is delivered through that cyber defense platform. So again, customer experience, client experience to us is wickedly important. We need them to be just thrilled, almost like a little kid at Christmas when they go on their CDP and be like, whoa, this is so cool. Look what they're doing now. This is what I strive for. I strive for this because I know when you have great client experience and you have those relationships, Andrew, you buy yourself forgiveness. What does that mean? That means I'm going to screw up. I'm going to screw up. It's inevitable. But when I screw up, my customer says to me, hey, you guys are awesome. Don't worry about it. Get it fixed. Let's keep going. Versus, you suck. I'm going to somebody else. Goodbye. Like, because there's nothing that's just another tool, right? We want accountability and a wicked client experience. That's what we've built. That's what we keep trying to get better at. And that comes through better innovation all the time. And obviously making who's ever leveraging that the most look really, really, really good when they go to that boardroom.
Hey, those are goals and concepts that work. That's an agnostic approach, right? That should be the mantra of every business that exists.
We wish, right?
We wish.
Doesn't happen. I mean,
yeah, as a consumer and a user of many products and services, I know that is not the case, right?
It's not, right?
Look down the road a year and talk about 2025. What are some things you'd like to be celebrating personally and professionally?
Well, we are expanding as a company. We continue to expand into different countries. Right now, we're making a big push in Japan, which is going very well. We have many, many global customers and many in Japan, but most of them we are handling out of Singapore. So now we are making a big beachhead in Japan. We want to keep expanding that BlueVoyant footprint. But, as I always say, we do it smartly, right? I always do it smartly. To think about expansion the old-fashioned way is kind of dumb, meaning concrete infrastructure, process, playbook. No. You gotta change the game. You gotta think a little differently, right? So we're doing that, but we are definitely looking to expand in more and more into Japan, in Latin America. We already have people in all those places in Canada. We are moving out in the UK. We've already got a big business there. We have a very healthy business in Germany. We'll be expanding more over in the UK. So again, it's just pushing out on the footprint, right? Getting it out there and making sure we're big into the face-to-face relative to sales. Sales, I demand. Face-to-face. I tell everybody in my company, you cannot shoot moose from the lodge. Get off your ass and get out there. Get out your customers. I don't want to find out that people are, well, I kind of had another video call. And then listen, get out there. Get them a cup of coffee. I believe the world is going back to the office. I see that more and more, which is wonderful. The relationship matters. Get out there. Be accountable. Be in front of them. So we're going to be expanding in those ways, in addition to what I told you, what's coming with the tech and the invention there. And it's sad to say, but yeah, I think it's becoming unique to have the approach that I've described. Everybody wants to go so fast. They want to do something. Everybody always, this is what kills me. They always think sales is the easy part, right? And I sit there and I look at businesses, and I've done this for so long now, and I look and I go, you know what? Every business that I have seen that has failed because of sales. They may have had the technology that was the cure to cancer, but they thought that selling part was just so easy, and it just died in the bag. It never went anywhere. So I remind people, I go, look, everybody in BlueVoyant is in sales. You better know your brand. You better know your value proposition. You better know your customer. I don't care if you're in tax, if you're in finance, anywhere in the back office. Trust me, you keep sending the wrong invoice to a customer, you're going to have a problem because you're in sales. That customer looks at you and says, those BlueVoyant idiots don't know what they're doing. They keep screwing up invoicing. It hurts. It hurts the brand. So everybody's in sales. Everybody represents this brand. And, we say it is a privilege and an honor to work here. So understand that. That's the deal. So yeah, it's exciting for us. We push hard on that. It's a good culture of aggression, I call it, around customer experience. We are very aggressive about giving a great client experience.
Hey, I wish more companies felt the way you do. I always say if you focus on the process and the clients and the relationships, the business end will take care of itself. It does not work the other way around.
Yeah, people do business with who they like, right? They find a way. The other thing I tell people all the time is leverage the word no. No is a very popular, powerful, strong, great word. Just have the guts to use it. If you're with a customer and they need something we don't do, say no. It's okay. It shows you have integrity. And the fact that they bring it to you going, oh, come on, there's got to be a way, shows that they really like you. You really deliver. So when you say no, you know what happens? They want you even more because you had the integrity to say, this is not the A package for us. Let me help you find a partner who can deliver that A package, but this one is not ours. Let's work and help you. And it's so refreshing. And I sit there and go, why is it refreshing? It's just humility. It's just being honest, right? But people, they struggle to say no. They always want to find a way. We're very good at saying no, saying nope, but we're going to help you solve the problem. But look, we can't deliver the A here. You don't want us to do this. Let's go find somebody else.
Well, hey, no's an important word. The current generation isn't so fond of using it, but they better learn that skill, right?
Well, they're going to have to learn because, I always say to people, I always tell people, what's the universal language? I always ask, what's the universal language? English. No, I get 20 different answers. I go, you all fail. You're wrong. The universal language is math. And math has no emotion. Math doesn't give a crap. Math is kind of like gravity. You can debate it all day long, but there it is. You can do whatever you want, but there it is. Okay? So math, you better appreciate that because when you're going to have your no, I don't like no, I'm not going to say, oh, no, it wasn't my fault or it was something else. Business follows math. Sorry. That's what it is. Can't change it. Like gravity.
I like it. Please tell us, what's your URL? Where can people find BlueVoyant? And what social media outlets are you using these days?
Oh, gosh, you'll find Blue. We have some big presence on LinkedIn, of course. We have obviously at www.bluevoyant.com. The website is absolutely terrific. I also have responsibility for our global marketing. And one of the things that people will love about BlueVoyant is I believe that nobody wants to read a PowerPoint anymore. They sure as hell don't want to read a white paper. So when you go to our website, you will see that all of our value propositions are described in 2-minute movies. People will definitely hit a play button. And we strive to be great communicators. I always say marketing doesn't do a deal, and nor do I want it to do a deal. I just want it to project the value prop. So if you go to the website, it is very easy, clean, and clear to learn BlueVoyant's value proposition. And then you simply just reach out right there from the website to say, you know what? I want to talk to somebody. I got a question about this. I'd like to learn a little bit more. And of course, we will engage.
Excellent. You speak our language, my friend.
I love it.
Michael Conley at BlueVoyant, thank you for spending some time with us on Business Ninjas. All the best to you and yours and continued success at BlueVoyant.
Thank you, sir. A real pleasure.
My pleasure. Be well.